These are calling cards from Call of Duty Black Ops 7. They're unlockable titles used to show off achievements, like getting headshots with a certain gun or prestiging X number of times. But while for the most part they're harmless cosmetics, a few of them in Activision's newest game had the internet up in arms. That's because these calling cards were AI generated. The news started a media firestorm, raising questions about AAA games using generative AI and making people ask, how widespread is the use of AI in the gaming industry? From Call of Duty Black Ops 7 to Ubisoft's Anno 117 Pax Romana to Embark Studios' Arc Raiders, it seems like everyone is using AI nowadays. But where do we draw the line? And when will players say enough is enough when it comes to AI slop making its way into games? The first question to ask is what exactly constitutes AI use in gaming, and what kind are people upset about? We're not talking about NPCs who adapt to player tactics, dynamic difficulty adjustment that alters game difficulty based on player progression, or procedural content generation like in Hades or No Man's Sky. These kinds of quote-unquote AI have been around for years, and no one is up in arms over these video game staples. The kind of AI making headlines and driving people nuts is generative AI, LLMs, and AI-based tools. These are what have people worrying that the quality of games might be going down the toilet. AI-based tools are already common in plenty of professions. A writer might use it to check for grammar, a graphic designer might use it to edit parts of a photo. Because games are so complex to make, there are tons of applications in game making, everything from level design to bug testing. LLMs can read and understand text en masse, with the ability to try and respond to it while remembering the previous conversation. A theoretical application in games is to make NPCs that understand and respond to players more naturally. We're not quite to the point where NPCs are gonna have full-on conversations with us, but some games are already experimenting with the idea, and it feels like we're not that far off from this technology entering AAA games. Finally, there's generative AI, which, as the name suggests, can create anything from small pieces of art to entire map layouts for developers to use. While this might sound harmless, generative AI mimics art from other sources, often without the approval or consent from the original creator. The term AI slop comes from this mishmash of styles. It often ends up looking unfinished and just plain sloppy. This is the type of AI used to create some of Black Ops 7's calling cards. Unsurprisingly, people were quick to rip into Activision, comparing the artwork to fake mobile game ads and lamenting the fact that they paid $70 for a game that included AI slop. Not only that, the art style the calling cards were mimicking were that of Studio Ghibli, whose creator, Hayao Miyazaki, is famous for being staunchly opposed to using any kind of AI. For a smaller company, maybe it would have flown under the radar. But this is Activision Blizzard we're talking about, a massive company that has no excuse for cutting corners. As Forbes said, the Call of Duty franchise has, quote, a budget multiples higher than other series. They have more than enough money to pay real artists to create these calling cards, especially since Black Ops 7 doesn't really have that many customization options to begin with. There are character skins, gun charms, and calling cards. That's it. It's not like the game is packed to the brim with content to the point where they had to use AI to get everything done. With the story starting to grow and more bad press falling on Activision, the gaming giant responded in classic Activision fashion, putting their heads down and not really addressing the issue at all. Their official response was, quote, like so many around the world, we use a variety of digital tools, including AI tools, to empower and support our team to create the best gaming experiences possible for our players. Seriously, did AI write this too? Jesus. Treyarch, on the other hand, was more upfront about the whole debacle. Miles Leslie, Treyarch's associate creative director, was open about how AI is used to streamline their game development in tons of different ways. He was adamant that Treyarch's goal was for no generative AI content to make it into Black Ops 7, and that the calling cards were, quote, by accident. We've come out and been very clear that we use these tools to help the team, but they do not replace any of the fantastic team members we have. Right. Except this wasn't the first time a Call of Duty game was caught using AI-generated art. In 2024, Black Ops 6 was called out for this six-fingered Santa Claus, then this seven-fingered hand holding gumballs, then these loading screens that were included in paid bundles. But that's not all. Earlier that year, Modern Warfare 3 came under fire for this loading screen that came with Yokai's Wrath, another paid bundle. Maybe if it was free, we could let it go as an honest mistake. But people are paying money for these cosmetics. Shouldn't a bit of effort go into making them? Black Ops 7 is where people said enough is enough. The game ended up getting review bombed on Steam, and many fans boycotted buying it altogether. Black Ops 7 only sold around 400,000 copies on Steam in its first 26 days, a huge drop from the 2.3 million copies Black Ops 6 sold in the same time span. Other stats speak to a 50% decrease in daily active players in Call of Duty compared to 2024. It seems pretty unanimous that no one was happy about AI being used in Black Ops 7. But while it's easy to draw the line at AI slop artwork, the ethics of using AI aren't always so cut and dry. In Ubisoft's Anno 117 Pax Romana, one of the loading screens used AI-generated artwork, and of course, fans noticed. But when it was brought to Ubisoft's attention, unlike Activision, who tried to deflect any blame away from themselves, Ubisoft was quick to state how this artwork was not intended to release with the main game, and that it was a placeholder image meant to be replaced by an actual artist's rendition. Ubisoft apologized for the mistake and fixed the problem, which is great, but it also made it clear that using AI images for placeholder or storyboarding purposes is becoming more and more the norm. And even though the final product is supposed to be AI-free, having so much AI used throughout the development process makes it a weird line to try and navigate. Which brings us to another side of this AI story, which comes from one of 2025's biggest releases, Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders uses AI text-to-speech voices, which were trained with the consent of real voice actors. Embark Studios has done this with their other multiplayer game, The Finals, and had similar feedback from fans. The game also has a feature where players can mask their voice, altering it in real time with AI to sound like whatever character they're playing. It's cool, it's weird, it's hard to know exactly how to feel about it. Many view Embark's use of AI as more ethical, as the company used it in minor aspects of the game while also getting approval from the voice actors. However, many players are worried that this could be the start of a chain of events that end with voice actors losing work if they don't consent to having their voice used to train an AI program. In a similar vein to AI-generated art, the programs that create the placeholder art have to reference other pieces of work, usually without the artist's approval. For example, in a recent remake of the old school Tomb Raider games, the original voice actor for Lara Croft, Francois Cadol, was surprised when she heard that the remakes, done by Aspire Media, replaced her voice with an AI-generated replica of her work from 1996. Safe to say, she wasn't happy. In an Associated Press interview in September 2025, she called this use of AI, quote, pathetic, stating simply that, "My voice belongs to me. You have no right to do that." However, one of the most recent controversies surrounding AI usage was centered around Larian Studios, the beloved developers of Baldur's Gate 3 and the Divinity franchise. Larian has built an unbelievable amount of goodwill with just about everyone, thanks to their honest communication, free updates, and amazing games. But that didn't stop the internet from getting up in arms over the studio's use of AI. In an interview with Bloomberg, CEO Sven Vinke mentioned that they use generative AI to, quote, explore ideas, flesh out PowerPoint presentations, develop concept art, and write placeholder text. When the interview went live, fans were up in arms, wondering why a company that curried so much favor with Baldur's Gate 3 would suddenly sour everything by admitting to using a tool associated with replacing gaming jobs. Well, Vinke was quick to respond with a long tweet, which you know is gonna be good when it starts with, "Holy fuck, guys." Seriously, Larian's media training is top-notch. In this tweet, he clarified that the studio, quote, uses AI tools to explore references just like we use Google and art books, and was clear that concept artists are not being replaced by AI. Still, there are many online who say they'll be boycotting Divinity because any AI is bad AI. And while some other fans are cautiously optimistic because, hey, it's Larian Games, the golden child of gaming right now, who have enough goodwill to buy a house, another company that has absolutely no goodwill whatsoever has also come under fire. That's right, EA. Back in 2024, EA showed off this advanced text-to-game program to investors, hinting at what it could do for games in the future. Fast forward 365 days, and reports are coming in from EA employees that they're now being mandated to use AI in every part of their job. From training chatbots to task automation, executives at EA expected AI to boost productivity, but in reality, nearly half of EA's developers blame the mandate for heavier workloads and higher stress. Imagine you've been working a job for a long time, and all of a sudden, your stable and streamlined workflow needs to be completely redone because one of your bosses heard somewhere that AI will help you do things faster and better. For something as complex as game development, it's annoying, it's frustrating, and it's a complete nightmare. GameDeveloper.com conducted a survey where they collected responses from developers around the world. The results? Most of them don't really like AI. Developers in 2025 are 4 times more likely to say that generative AI will negatively impact game quality compared to the year before. Developers who viewed AI positively decreased from 17% to 11% during the same period, and the number of developers who were neutral on AI also decreased over the same period. The site made their own article on the survey, including some enlightening excerpts from the devs, including quotes that said things like, large language models are aspirationally mid, and games using generative AI will be more generic, even if that's not immediately discernible to a player. The study also suggests that it's not the tools themselves that developers are frustrated with, but rather their implementation. Developers don't necessarily hate the tools, they hate the companies that are making them use the tools. AI researcher and game developer Mike Cook stated in a conversation with GameDeveloper.com that, quote, what we've seen over the past 12 months is that a lot of companies are using these tools despite their problems and despite public backlash. I suspect a lot more developers are facing situations where they're being asked to make do with AI outputs as, quote, good enough, especially when the industry continues to get squeezed and more people lose their jobs. The icing on the top of this controversy cake has got to be a recent quote with Guillaume Broche, CEO and creative director for Game of the Year winner Clair Obscur Expedition 33. He stated in a recent interview with Game Pressure, quote, creating is one of the most beautiful things people can do. So when it comes to creation, our answer is a firm no. Nothing in the game will come from AI. We state this clearly, it's a firm no for us. A great sentiment. And one that was simply not true, as Expedition 33 used generative AI placeholder images that made it into the full game. They were quickly patched out after launch and replaced with the intended images, but the slip-up led to Expedition 33 being removed from Game of the Year contention at the Indie Game Awards. So, now that we know the difference between good AI and bad AI, what exactly does the future look like? Broadly speaking, AI is still in its infancy. And right now, it's not some one-size-fits-all miracle solution that can replace real artists, designers, and game makers. Gamers everywhere have made it clear that they care a lot about this subject, and won't accept AAA developers quietly shoving AI into games without some pushback. With modern tools, indie game studios have grown to a point where they can compete against multi-billion-dollar corporations. Heck, even games made by a single person, like Undertale or 2024 Game of the Year nominee Balatro, have become fan favorites despite shoestring budgets. And for many, the reason for their success is the human element. Sure, AI could have been used to help streamline the creative process, designing the artwork for all those jokers, or fleshing out level design in Undertale. But why let a computer do the things that make a game so special? The little details, the seemingly annoying parts of game development. Isn't that where the craftsmanship lies? Isn't the artistry the thing that makes games so special? Generative AI is cool. Being able to type in a prompt and have your image flash on the screen immediately scratches some part of our brains. But generative AI basically functions as plagiarism with extra steps. Today, many indie games are proudly labeling their work as AI-free, and Steam has begun applying labels marking games that were made with AI so everyone knows what they're getting into. This little tag made Epic Games boss Tim Sweeney a little bit perturbed, stating that the label is unfair, as all games will eventually use AI in development. Yeah, sure Tim, maybe the games you make, but not all of them. Artists, fans, gamers, we appreciate the work that's put into the games we play. That's how all the best stories were written, and how all the best games were made. Fun. The more AI slop that gets pushed on us, the more fans will turn away, instead favoring games that are, for lack of a better word, real. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what matters most?